Fun. What is it and can it be measured? Is it the dopamine rush you get fed into your brain when you hit a 70k ignite on your mage? Or when you hit a giant recklessness whirlwind on your warrior? Is it the satisfaction you gain when you are first by far on SCADA? I believe so. Today I will be talking about and listing my favorite Wrath of the Lich King classes and specs to play. And yes, I've played each one. Keep in mind that this list is entirely my opinion, and that it's okay if you have a different one. It's okay if you're wrong. So without further ado, here are my top 5 most fun classes to play in Warmane's Wrath of the Lich King server. Number 5. Affliction Warlock is one of those really underrated specs. Usually, when people think of caster DPSs, they think of mages and shadow priests, but the good Affliction Warlock can contend with even the best of them. Affli has a really fun rotation. At best in slot gear, you have a shitload of haste, which means that your casts are really quick. You're also really mobile since you have your demonic circle, and because you can move without losing globals while refreshing your dots. However, where Affliction really shines is the execution phase. Once the boss goes below 25% HP, you become an unstoppable force where no one can rival your damage. If you get Power Infusion and Tricks of the Trade cast on you in the execution phase, you become Death, the destroyer of worlds.
Now I am become Death, the destroyer of worlds.
Apart from your damage, you also bring a lot of utility to your raid in Summon Stones, Help Stones and Soul Stones. You will have a hard time fitting Affliction into your raids, since Warlocks are brought mostly as demonology for the raid buff they give, but if you have the chance, I definitely recommend trying Affliction out. A fun fact is that when Paragon first downed the Lich King back in 2010, is that they brought 0 mages and 3 warlocks to the raid. Number 4. Restoration Shaman is by far my favorite healer to play in the game. The split-second choices you have to make each global, combined with the irreputable healing output of the Shaman, make it a dream to play. A healing pump machine that, combined with the necessity of your totems and heroism, makes you an irreplaceable asset in the raid. Your major cooldowns in Tidal Force and Nature's Swiftness can also save the raid in those clutch situations like no other healer can. We also can't forget about Reincarnation, Shaman's signature spell. If you are creative enough with Reincarnation, for example dying on purpose on Sindragosa's last phase with the Unchained Magic debuff, people will line up for you to grace their raid with your Restoration Shaman. I had to include Balance Druid as my first honorable mention. Never underestimate the Fat Owl. Boomkins, when played right, can top LOD fights and dish out incredible amounts of damage. What makes Boomies fun to play is the build up to Starfall and the amazing burst damage they can throw out in just a few seconds. Also, the Eclipse mechanic is really fun to play around. No list would be complete without the king of AoE, the Doomkin. Number 3. Frost DK is one of the most engaging classes to play in the game. APM required to play it is really high, and you can't wander or slack off for a second or your DPS will go to shit. If you enjoy a high risk, high reward gameplay, this is the class for you. What I mean by high risk, high reward gameplay is your diseases falling off if Pestilence misses. Then you can just stop hitting, pretend you got disconnected and return when the fight is over. Frost DKs have a crazy good single target DPS if pulled off properly, and their AoE burst is really good as well. This is also one of the hardest specs in the game to pull off properly, so you won't see many of them dominating the DPS charts. But when played correctly, it is very rewarding and satisfying to play. Also, the feeling you get when you hit a big pack with a crit Howling Blast cannot be measured with anything in the game. The problem with Frost DKs is that they are really hard to gear. Capping your stats with the odd gear that you do get is really something. Sometimes you'll need to spend 1000 gold on gems just to hit your caps after replacing one item. Number 2. For my number 2 spot on the list, I chose Fury Warrior. When I was a beginner, a friend of mine told me, if you truly want to enjoy the game, you should play a Fury Warrior, and I took it to heart. When you play Warrior, you are a lone mower and the bosses are grass. You are the ultimate man. Even if warriors are pretty easy to pick up and play, mastering the class is a different animal in itself. The fun comes in getting 100% out of your class, and for that you'll need to fly like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Warriors are also pretty easy to gear. Once you hit your ARP cap, you are already an animal and you can top LOD fights easily. As for utility, you have almost no responsibilities. You leave the Sunders to the low warriors in the raid, clear your mind and enter DPS Nirvana. My second honorable mention had to be the Retribution Paladin. Yeah, I sometimes talk shit about red paladins, but the truth is that ICC and RS would be so much more difficult without them. The support they provide to the raid, coupled with tons of damage they can dish out when played correctly, makes them irreplaceable in the raid. The beautiful simplicity of the Red Palace rotation is what makes them really fun to play, and the numbers you see after a big AoE Divine Storm sometimes make me cry.
Sometimes there's so much beauty in the world. I feel like I can't take it.
Number 1. While I was preparing the video, I asked a bunch of my multi-classer friends one question. If you could only play one class and spec in World of Warcraft, which one would it be? Unsurprisingly, most of them told me Feral Druid. The kitty cat is one amazing beast. There is a lot of RNG involved with the cat in when you're clear casting procs and if you get 1 or 2 combo points with your crits. No two fights are the same, which means that improvisation is key. That minigame combined with tracking all your dots is what makes playing the kitty cat so fun. Both your single target and AoE damage is one of the best in the game. You also bring a lot of utility to your raid in Mangle, Fairy Fire, your combat res and inner raid. Also, the satisfaction you gain after beating a fire mage on a single target fight is worthy in itself to play a feral druid. The problem with feral druids is that one mistake can really set you back, and you might not be able to recover your DPS after that. Feral is also, in my opinion, the hardest class to master. You'll need loads of experience and raids under your belt to be really able to dish out 100% of your potential. That journey is worth it in itself. Every class can be fun if you find yourself in it. Every spec can be enjoyable if you like it. That is why I would recommend trying out as many as you can and finding out what fits you and your playstyle. That's it for my list. Did you agree with it? What is your favorite class and spec to play? Thank you for watching. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed the video and if you'd like to see more.